As you are coming in, we do invite you just a couple of technical things to deal with just as we get started this evening. First of all, I am Bill Brown. I am the Director of Congregational Vitality for the Baltimore-Washington and Peninsula Delaware conferences. And tonight we are joined by Paul Eichelberger, who is our conference's treasurer and chief financial officer. We're also joined by David Schoeller, who is our director of business systems. We are joined by John Gauthier, our applications administrator and data analyst. And in the background, just here, in case we have questions, is Francis Spain, who is our director of human resources and benefits. So as we're getting started, I do want to invite you to drop in the chat. It is open at this point. Just make sure you select everyone. Drop in the chat who you are and where you're joining us from this evening. As you're doing that, we're going to open up with a word of prayer. So if you would pray with me, please. Holy and gracious God, we do give you thanks. Not just because we are in this season leading up to the day of Thanksgiving, but because Thanksgiving is a lifestyle we know we should be emulating. For all that we have and all that we are is a gift from you, O God, and for that we are grateful. We're grateful for those who are joining us tonight, and although we may be in separate places, we are thankful that you have united us through your Holy Spirit. I'm thankful for our panelists and presenters who are with us this evening as we look at the ministry that is undertaken by our finance teams. So bless us this evening, O God. Give us insight, wisdom, and understanding so that we can truly move your church forward as we strive to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. We pray this all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
As we get started this evening, it is so good to see all of the names populating our chat tonight. We also invite you, if you do have questions throughout the evening, to put them in the Q&A. Please do not use the chat. Or I could say you may use the chat. We just won't answer any questions that appear in the chat. So please use the Q&A. And without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to you, Paul, and team. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight to be able to talk to so many churches that on the week of Thanksgiving, it's quite a blessing to know that we're going over 200 on our participation tonight. On a Training Tuesday, it's been a while since we had a local church finance Training Tuesday that focused in on this. And I just want you to know that this is a little bit like cleaning out the refrigerator at the end of the year. We are going to go through a variety of topics. The biggest one that we have to talk about tonight, we'll ask John to go ahead and give me a couple clicks on the presentation, John. The biggest item that we're going to talk through is going to be the Compass program. This is the new pension plan for clergy that goes into effect January 1st. And we wanted to spend some real quality time tonight going through one more overview. But really the main focus tonight is on the billing details that we'll be organizing for both conferences starting January 1st. So I appreciate you being able to hear this in this venue. This is going to be a recording that we provide access to so that those churches that are not on this call tonight will also have the ability to go through these billing details. And we're hoping that that will help streamline some of our conversations and activities when it comes time for seeing the first billings coming out of the new Compass plan. In addition to that, as we look into the refrigerator, there's some updates that we have at the year end that we'd like to bring to you, some new statistical trends that we've been able to analyze over the last 6 months or so. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to close this out tonight with some views of our conference budgets, both the Baltimore-Washington and the Penn-Del budgets, and where we stand going into the year end as well. So those are the primary things that we're going to talk about. I look forward to the questions. The Q&A is intended tonight to be also of the eclectic nature where nothing is off topic and I hope that you will bring some interesting questions to us. We have such a large group tonight that I look forward to being able to see what questions you have. And if you have a question on your mind, it's probably something that's common with others on the call as well. Now let's get started then with the Compass overview. I have two slides on the Compass overview to bring to you tonight, and we've shown these in previous settings. Just wanted to make sure that we use this to set the tone for what we're talking about. This is the General Conference approved pension plan that was approved back in April of 2024. We've had a year and a half to prepare for the launch of this pension plan that starts January 1st, 2026, and that this is a change in pension plans from CRISP, which contained a defined benefit component and a defined contribution component, and Compass is moving to a 100% defined contribution plan. And as part of that plan, there are three different types of contributions that are being made into the pension plan. This is fundamental to understand this aspect of the three contributions, because we'll see this again when Dave talks about the actual billing of the pension plan to churches. So let's go through. The first one is called a flat dollar contribution. We see in this chart that there are two columns. The first one is the one that is going to be paid by the churches, and the second column on the right is going to be the component that is paid by clergy. So on this first one, called the flat dollar contribution, there is $150 per month paid for each pastor, regardless of their time or whether they're full-time or part-time, and $150 per month. Let me think about that. I think, Francis, I might want you to come on here. I don't want to misstate this, but I think what we're going to say is the flat pension plan is $150 per month for a full-time pastor, correct?
Full-time pastors,
So
correct.
if you're 50% pastor, then it's $75 per month.
Correct.
Right? So I already caught myself once. Stay close, Francis. So $150 per month is for a full-time pastor. There's no component paid by the clergy for that aspect. And that is a flat dollar amount for all full-time clergy, regardless of what their cash salary is. The pay dependent contribution is the second part. That's a 3% of pay. And the pay is considered their compensation plan pay, which is a combination of their cash salary and their housing allowance or their housing allowance equivalent for pastors who have a parsonage. Once again, this is only paid by the church. There's no component paid by the clergy on this one. There's no contribution made by clergy for this contribution. And the third component in this list is the matching contribution. This is a 1-for-1 match that's made on 4% of the plan compensation for a pastor. The church will be billed 4% of that pay, and the pastor's matching amount is an amount up to 4% for this component that is actually taken out of their pay. And the pastor has control over what percentage that is. And we'll have a little bit more detail on that. So it's safe at this point to just remember that the Compass pension plan has three different contributions, and that we will see these contributions in our billing. Let's go to the next slide. This is an example of how this formula works. And we're looking at compensation on the top row, and we're giving you two examples. One pastor who's $40,000 total compensation, and one that's $75,000 total compensation, just to allow you to see how these different components work in the calculations. If you're doing your flat, that's $150 per month. Both of these individuals are full-time, assumed to be full-time. So $150 a month adds up to $1,800 a year. The 3% of plan compensation, 3% of the 40,000 is 1.2, or 1,200 rather. And 3% of the $75,000 compensation is $2,250. Likewise, we see what the 4% match is calculating for both of the individuals on this chart. And you see a total for the 40,000 compensation, it's a total of 4,600 or 11.5% of compensation. At $75,000 compensation on the right, it's $7,050 total, and that equates to 9.4% of total compensation. So this is allowing you to see the impact of that flat dollar contribution. It gives you a higher percentage of the compensation when you're working with a $40,000 plan compensation versus the $75,000. And that's why you get this range. In this case, 9.4% on the low range, 11.5 on the high range. And both of these numbers compare equally to what the current CRISP contribution was in 2025 of 14%. 14%. So there is a reduction in the pension calculations of what the church obligation will be as we go from CRISP into the Compass plan. Once again, this is implemented January 1st. And the third bullet on this slide to complete my part of the presentation simply states that for those pastors who are in a parsonage, the compensation that we're using here, which is called the planned compensation, is a combination of their cash salary plus, because they don't have a housing allowance, it's 35% of the cash salary is thought to contribute the housing aspect of their total compensation package. So 35% of cash is how you calculate your planned compensation if you're in a parsonage. If you have a housing allowance, then it's simply for your planned compensation, the simple calculation of your cash salary plus your housing allowance. Bill, I think we'll stop there and just see if there are any questions on the basics.
Oh, there are questions, Paul.
Oh my. Go ahead.
And they're all good. So there's a couple of questions around the 4% contribution. So they're slightly different. So I'll go through some of them. If the pastor is not contributing, does the church pay the 4%?
Let's go back to that slide, John. And so I want to make sure that we see here on this, excuse me, on this slide, the church billing will always be 4% for that matching contribution line, regardless of what the pastor's actual election is. And you gave me one example. If the pastor's only doing 1%, just know that we will be billed, the conference will be billed for the 1%. That is true, to do a true match. But this can change at any time. A pastor will have the flexibility to change this match on a monthly basis. It's not on an annual basis, but on a monthly basis, they will be able to change that. So what looks to be inappropriate at one time can quickly change when we're in the Compass system. And also know that a pastor can give much more than 4% on this match. So a pastor can do 10%, 15% or higher, and all we're going to be billing the church for is the first 4% of that match.
But if the pastor is not contributing at all, then they're only doing the flat dollar, or do they still, I mean, how do you do 4% of?
Let me, the 4% is of the compensation package.
Okay.
So 4% of the compensation, salary plus the housing allowance, is how you calculate the matching contribution.
Okay.
Okay. So the 4% of compensation, regardless of what the pastors has elected for their contribution to the pension plan.
So even if like the pastor says, I'm going to contribute 3% of my compensation, the church still does 4%.
The church still goes 4%.
Okay.
Just to give you the sense of what a board of pensions would do there. First of all, it's Francis's job and Terry's job, Karen's job to talk with pastors, and their one-on-ones with pastors really don't recommend less than 4%. So there's a lot of counseling that we'll do with pastors to make that not the normal case, right? So that's the first one. If the Board of Pensions if they see that there is additional billing because of this, the pastors are not contributing up to 4%. Just know that the Board of Pensions regularly monitors this type of billing to make sure that it's matching what bills we're paying directly to Westpath. And if there's ever any surplus that comes from this, then that is an area for the Board of Pensions to provide relief. And during COVID, that was one example of when the Board of Pensions was able to use that excess billing. This type of over the years can add up. That's when we were able to offer some waivers on pensions during COVID. So
And
that's
we have a question about, and I think it's definition. When you say pay dependent contribution, somebody's wondering, does that mean a dependent of the pastor or is that dependent on the pay? Because somebody's asked, if the pastor does not have a dependent, will the church still pay the 3%?
I don't know the reference to the dependent that's in here. It's called a defined benefit, not dependent benefit.
Okay, on this slide it says there are three types of contributions: flat dollar, pay dependent, and matching.
Thank you. In that
You're welcome.
reference, pay dependent means that it's completely dependent upon the compensation pay. And that's where the dependency is. So it's not a pay for dependence. It's that it's directly tied to the pay. Nothing else.
Understood. Um, Now, if somebody's doing a follow-up, if the church pays 4% and the pastor pays 2%, does the pastor get the 4% from the church or do they get a 2% match?
Pastor sees the exact one-to-one match. So in that case, 2% goes to the pastor's account.
Looking back, how about for a pastor that's quarter time and a 2-point charge? Does the new pension plan impact them?
Um, for Baltimore-Washington, quarter-time pastor is not eligible for Compass. For Peninsular Delaware, a quarter-time pastor will have the same type, but into their UMPIP.
So the microphone's a little bit off, Francis. So let me go ahead and repeat that. The quarter time in the two conferences have two different scales on these benefits. Pastors know this best. They're able to do one-on-ones with HR and benefits, and so they'll understand these details. For our citing tonight, BWC for a quarter-time pastor is not eligible for Compass. The way it's structured in the Peninsula Delaware Conference is that the quarter time pastor, even on a 2-point charge, that quarter time pastor is not in Compass as such, but they're in the UMPIP program, and the church contributions to that UMPIP program are exactly as you see here. It's a quarter time of the 150, and it's that 3 and the 4% match that are billed to the church for the purpose of putting in their UMPIP account.
And we're getting a lot of questions about this percentage in this match, so I'm going to see if I can do. So somebody has asked if, let me find that question. So if the pastor doesn't contribute the maximum of 4% and the church contributes 4%, does the extra go to the pension program and not to the pastor?
It goes to the conference board of pensions reserves is the best way to think of that.
Which then helps cover in case of other.
It certainly does help on the case of any arrearage situation, but that's what I'm saying gets monitored by the Board of Pensions. And if there is a surplus that gathers to be a significant amount, then the Board of Pensions always feels the tension to be able to find a way to best support clergy and retirees in that.
And so as a follow-up, the original question asker says, how can the annual conference take money for matching that the pastor isn't paying? But does that help balance it out regardless of that if you get a pastor who's not doing the 4%, and
We
then
see
your
this.
next pastor gets a 4%, yours still has the church paying the same amount, so there's no fluctuation for the church?
Both conferences, Board of Pensions have a legacy of thinking about benefits for clergy so that they can be appointment neutral, is the
Okay.
term that we would say, so that so a church is hiring that pastor, and it really should make no difference to the church whether they have a family for a health benefit side of it or single. And in this case, it's somewhat the same on whether the pastor is making a contribution or not making a contribution. You want the churches who are receiving a pastor to be neutral as to the pastor that they're actually receiving. And
Okay.
so if a church was looking at two different pastors, you should see no difference in the amount of benefits for each.
Okay, so somebody is asking about, in this chart, you've got your three different types of contributions. So is a church billed for all three of these types?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's a good lead into our billing section on this.
Okay. Well, we have a few more questions. So how does this apply to retired clergy that are still serving part or full time?
Retirees are under via benefits, and they will not be under this Compass pension plan.
And how is monies that pastors put into the previous systems tracked? Is that rolled over into this new system, or are they tracked independently?
Francis, do you want to speak of the details here?
It will actually be tracked independently. There will be no new monies going into UMPIP. The last money will be in December, so anything from January on will be into Compass.
Okay, so Compass is not related to the UMPIP contributions. Those are
It's a separate bucket.
okay.
They're going to make these demarcations similar to what they did with the prior pension plans of CRISP and before that with pre-82.
I think this is my fourth pension plan since I've been in, and when you look at my my statement, there's a lot of different buckets. I like how you put that, Francis. Um, let's keep going on, and I think you might answer some of the questions in subsequent.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
This is a very good evening for us to spend time making sure people are getting the Compass details correct. So let's go through one more topic on Compass, and then Bill will be more thorough in making sure we've answered all the questions. Because after this, the subsequent material is really that cleaning out of the refrigerator and not as high a priority as these first two sections.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dave, for
Paul.
taking us through the next section.
Sure, thanks. So good evening, everyone. So starting January 1st, churches across the area are going to see some changes in how benefit billing works under Compass. And just want to say up front, our goal with these changes is to make sure things are cleaner and easier for everyone with all the other changes. One priority for this is to make sure churches can easily understand what charges belong to the participant and what belongs to the church. Because Compass contributions can change at any point during the year, we want to avoid any kind of situations where something gets mixed together or overlooked. As Paul mentioned, these can be changed every month, actually. So we want to make sure everything is clear as can be. You also see some updates that will help churches to stay current on the participant obligations, which again become very time sensitive under Compass. So we're going to be rolling out an ACH program in two stages, the first in the spring and the second on July 1st. One of the improvements that I'm personally excited about is updates to our online payment portal. It's going to reflect some of the changes in the statements around Compass. It's going to have some invoice grouping, a couple bells and whistles as well, and we'll get into those at the end of my part of the presentation. So next slide, John. So before I go any deeper into anything, I just want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to change with mission shares. This means that Baltimore-Washington churches will still get a statement every month that shows the statements have a monthly breakdown into 12 equal portions every month. Peninsula Delaware churches will continue to receive their statement in the same format, which shows the conference portion and the district portion of their apportionment goal. And then each month will show payments towards that goal. So again, everyone will see the same format there. Everyone will see progress towards their goals just like they normally would. Nothing will change there. So that's all going to be familiar territory. Next. Pension and healthcare statements, how it works today versus following January 1st. So right now, most churches receive either one or two statements depending on their enrollment status in either pension and or healthcare benefits. Starting January 1st, that structure shifts a little bit so that the bills will match the new Compass structure more clearly. So churches will receive either 2 or 3 statements depending on their pension or healthcare enrollment. Statement 1 is only going to show the participant contributions towards the pension and or healthcare benefits. Statement 2 is going to show the church contributions to pension, and statement 3 is going to show the church contributions to health insurance. And again, this is really about clarity. Participant charges need to be separated out because they are payroll deductions and they don't function the same way as church paid contributions. So we want to really make sure that they're untangled and make things easier for churches. But again, that said, we want to make sure this doesn't change the fact that the church is still responsible for submitting all the payments, whether they're the participant portion or the church portion of the premium. So similar to the way things are done now. So I'll walk you through the 3 statement types. So statement 1, again, is participant contributions. This is going to focus on, it's going to have several parts. It's going to be the contributions to the Compass plan. On the healthcare side, it's going to contain the participant portion of the medical, dental, and vision premiums. For Pendel, that statement will also include life insurance premiums as well. And for both conferences, you will see also contributions to FSA and HSA contributions. So these are all, again, payroll deductions. So these are going to be key for accuracy and timing as well. Statement 2 is going to be church contributions to pension. As Paul walked through, it's going to have the flat dollar contribution, the 3% plan contribution that is based on the plan comp, and then the 4% match. And this statement is also going to show any pre-Compass pension invoices that are still open or unpaid. So the invoices that you're used to seeing today, the CPP, CRISP, Life, all of those invoices that would be dated prior to January 1st will appear on that statement until they have been paid. Once those invoices have been paid, you will not see those mixed in with the other invoices moving forward. On the 3rd statement, this is going to be the church contributions to health insurance. This is going to cover, again, the church paid portion of medical, dental, vision programs starting January 1st. And then like the pension statement, this is going to also show any unpaid health insurance invoices that were issued prior to January 1st. And those invoices now are a mix of the church and participant portions. That's the way we used to do things, and we will be changing things. So once those invoices are paid, you'll no longer see any invoices on that statement that are a mix of participant and church contributions. So after that point, it'll be clearly just the church contributions for health insurance. So I know that's a lot to throw at you. I don't know if Bill, if we have any questions or.
Of course we do. Let's start with the statements. So somebody is commenting that with 3 statements, if they have more than one pastor, will they get 3 statements for each pastor, or will it be aggregated in the 3 statements?
Okay. The statements will be aggregated, similar to what churches are seeing today on their current statements. So you will see the charges. Typically, it's the charges for each person or pastor are grouped on the statement together for the individual components of that charge. So if two pastors are getting Compass, you will see Pastor A, and then those, the 3%, 4% flat fee, and then Pastor B, 3%, 4% flat fee. So they'll be grouped together by pastor, but everything will be on the same bill, on statement.
Thank you. I'm just reminding people who are putting questions in the chat, please do not put questions in the chat. I am losing them because there's so many questions coming in. So please use the Q&A. If it's in the chat, we're not going to answer it tonight. So if a participant's contributions are deducted from the pastor's salary but paid through Compass, that's correct?
Correct.
Okay, will the church have those amounts on January 1st, 2026?
Yes, yes, they will. Those will be on that first statement. That's just the participant contributions.
Okay.
Francis, I believe Westpath is collecting all of those elections and provides them to us in early December. So we will have those ready to roll when the statements go out in January.
Thank you. And I don't usually call out a person's name, but Sheila, your particular question, you need to most likely reach out to Francis or Karen, and they can help you or at least answer your question. It's a little more detailed than for the whole group. Finally, how are contributions invested? Does a pastor have the opportunity to choose their investment vehicles?
That would be a Francis or Paul question, I think.
Francis, how do we want to choose this? So this is turning into UMPIP types of options. A lot of pastors will manage this by using a life stage selection for their investments, but they have absolute control over how these are their personal contributions into their pension plan. And even the matching funds have the ability for a pastor to direct those to the way that they would like to be invested. And Westpath offers pastors at conferences, anybody who's invested with Westpath has options of different types of equity and fixed types of investments to choose from.
Thank you, Paul. So back to the billing. Will the statements be, with the new system, will the statements be received at the beginning of the month or mid-month? So currently this church is saying they get their statements mid-month.
We have a slide on that, Bill. So that's a good one for holding.
Okay.
And Dave, why don't you take us? Why don't we let Dave go back to this, and then we'll come back to the questions, Bill.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Great. Next slide, John. John, I'll take the next slide when you get a chance. Okay. So let's talk about ACH. So this will be a brand new program for everyone, and it's something that our finance and benefit folks here have been discussing at length because it's an important part of the Compass program. So Compass, as we've talked about, greatly increases the number of participant-related charges, and those need to be paid accurately and on time because they are all payroll deductions. So to protect the participants in both Compass and health insurance programs, and to ensure the timely and accurate payment of those payroll deductions, we wanted to roll out an ACH payment program. So ACH is known by different names by some people. It's also referred sometimes as EFT or electronic funds transfer. Some people refer to it as e-check. But regardless of the name, it's still the same process. It's the electronic transfer of funds from a bank account. So we know that's a pretty big change in how payments are handled, and we really want to be to ease into it in a way that feels manageable for everyone. That's why we're doing this in a two-phase process. We're going to have an optional ACH program that becomes effective in April next year. So there's no pressure here. It's just going to be an opportunity to try out the system invoices for benefits, and that can be benefits, the participant portion of benefits statement, or the church portion of benefits. It's up to the church. They can sign up for ACH payment for any of those statement types. For that phase of the plan, we're going to have enrollment materials, links to enrollment materials that go out on February 1st. The enrollment will be very straightforward. It's going to be a quick e-signature on an ACH agreement, along with some banking information. All of that will be sent via encrypted forms, so it will be secure. And the cutoff date for the April enrollment will be March 15th. So if you can get everything into us by March 15th, we will have everything entered in and ready to roll April 1st. So we think a lot of churches will find this ACH program will really make things simpler. It's a lot fewer things to track each month. No more wondering if the check made it in the mail on time before your treasurer went on vacation, or and we know you're juggling a lot of things, and sometimes this is a volunteer basis. So we think this will really be a benefit for our churches, especially as the complexity of some of this billing increases a bit. So later in 2016, effective on July 1st, we're going to introduce the second phase of the ACH program, and this is going to just focus specifically on the participant contributions. So that is going to be a required part of the process, so that the statement for the participant contributions each month will be automatically paid for all churches via ACH. We know that July 1st is 8 months away, but we know this is a big change for most, and we really felt it was important to introduce this early on. We will be providing more information as the months go by. We're going to have some additional trainings focusing on that as well, and we will make sure that we have materials on our websites as well. We're going to have, and we want to make sure that this is kind of a steady and predictable change over. And again, this is going to be the first time for some churches that they are processing regular participant contributions towards a benefit plan. And on top of that, again, as mentioned, participants can change these contributions every month throughout the year. So it's going to be challenging, and our hope is that this ACH will remove some of the challenges and the administrative burden for churches who are going to need to recalculate payroll deductions and possibly alter the amounts that they're paying the conference for their pastors one or more times during the year. So, and this will make sure that the contribution changes flow automatically and accurately from WestPath to your billing statement and then to payment. And hopefully this will make any changes much smoother and consistent every month. We also felt like it was a good opportunity to bring that same benefit to the participant portion of the health insurance benefits, as well as those dovetail into the participant portion of the Compass program, and they will be listed all in the same statement. So process details about that, just some highlights. The statements are going to go out the same time that you receive them now. So before the 10th of each month, you will receive your statement. And then the ACH deductions will initiate on the 20th of the month. Typically, ACH takes 2 or 3 business days to clear. So we wanted to have that window between the receipt of the statement and the drafting of the ACH to give time for churches to look everything over. If they have any questions about any of the charges, we can get those addressed and resolved before that fund drafting date. So we'll have plenty of time to deal with any changes during that time. So again, this whole process is meant to provide clarity and a little bit of breathing room for this process that makes things a little bit more complex when it comes to participant contributions. We're hoping that this will help to make things more clear and less stressful as we all learn this new program. And then I want to flip over to the next slide. We'll talk about some of the changes I mentioned are going to be in place to our online payment program. This system has been used by Baltimore-Washington Conference churches for some time, and we are pleased to announce that this is going to be available to Pendel churches early next year. The system provides churches with the opportunity to pay mission share, apportionments, benevolences, and in addition, churches can also view and pay invoices for pension and healthcare insurance benefits. All of the payments are processed via ACH. I took a look before the presentation, and since that service came online for us, it has been used by several hundred churches, and it's processed 35,000 electronic payments since we rolled it out. So we've had great luck with it, and I know it's been a big convenience for many of our churches. So starting January 1st, the changes to that system are going to be that the invoices, which previously were just kind of listed in date order, are now going to be grouped into categories that reflect how churches are seeing them on the various statements. So they're going to see the participant portions of Compass and health insurance, church portions, prior January 1, 2026 invoices. Those will all be clearly identified as you look at your online portal. We've also going to add some bells and whistles to the system as well. We've added, this has been a request from our churches, a quick pay button that will automatically pop in the full amount of the invoice. So there's no data entry involved or data entry errors. If you happen to miss a penny or something on a statement, it'll just automatically and quickly pop in the full amount. And then an aging column will be added to show you how long the invoice has been open, and that will help you prioritize payments as well. We're going to be putting together, especially for Peninsula Delaware, because we know that the system is going to be brand new, some training videos on this as well, and Pendel, we will have those to you well in advance of the launch date, so you'll be ready to take advantage of that when you are ready. So on the next slide, there's a real quick graphic that shows a portion of the payment portal. Here I have zoomed in on two different types of invoices for Compass. You'll see that the participant portion is at the top, and the employer portion or the church portion is at the bottom. The system allows you to, they'll be listed in single rows, and you can click on the little arrows on each side, the left-hand side, and it will expand out to show what is included in that invoice. So that bottom one is a 3-part invoice that is listed on one row, and you can see all the details by clicking on that arrow. The quick pay button is shown with the arrow over there far on the right-hand side, and that will again pop in the full amount due for the invoice. And then the aging column I mentioned is there at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over, and it will show you the age in days from the date of the invoice when it was issued. So again, just some things to make things a little bit easier as we were navigating all these other changes. So that's kind of an overview of what we're looking at as far as changes with the Compass billing program. So I know we probably have questions. Bill, send it over to you.
Just a few. So let's start, if you can leave the online portal slide up there. Somebody is asking the question, do they have the option of using this online payment system or signing up for the ACH, or will the ACH be mandatory moving forward?
So the ACH program, if you are not using the portal now, there's probably not a whole lot of need to have you sign up for the optional ACH program because you're familiar with the ACH process because you've been using the portal for maybe months or years. So those are two really separate things. You can certainly shift over from using the portal to the ACH program. I think the one big difference with the portal is it offers you with, even if you have signed up for the ACH program for the Compass plan, you can still have the option for your mission shares or your apportionments or any kind of benevolences that you want to send those can still be processed via the online payment portal. So kind of two different variations of the same thing that hopefully complement each other.
Dave,
And-
let's expand on that just a little bit. So an ACH form is a church actually providing the conference with their bank account information, and a conference is then pulling the transaction. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Through the
Well-
online portal, you're pushing the transaction.
That's a great way to say it. Yep.
Okay, and that was one of the questions that I saw about the
Yes.
push.
Yep.
And let's just make sure that we're clear on there's only one element of the ACH polling that's going to be mandatory, and that is the participant contribution and the contributions and the payments made by participants, and that goes into effect July 1st.
That's correct.
Fair?
Yep.
Thank you,
so
Bill.
and that follows up with one of the questions. So that for the clergy's contribution, the church is making that payment, not the clergy person. It's being deducted
Yes.
from the clergy person's salary and sent by the church.
Correct.
You're now an honorary member of the finance team, Bill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Paul, I believe I've done a few of these with you, and I still don't understand everything, but you do make it a lot clearer for me. Someone's just wondering if they could see if some sample statements could be sent out before this goes live, just so that they could get an idea of what it might look like.
Yep, that is part of the plan. We will have online some PDFs of sample statements that show the difference between the three, how they appear, and pointing out some key points of the statement. That will be available by the end of December, and we will alert churches about that as well. And we will also include on the email, in the body of the email that accompanies that statements are attached to, we will have some links in there to the training resources as well. So you can click on that anytime that you need it.
Along the lines of communications, Dave, I want to get Francis a chance to just talk about where we stand. We are now post-election, so pastors have gone in and selected their participation in what Health Flex plan they want for medical. Health Flex is new for Pendel this year, going into 2026, so that's rather new. So these are going to be new numbers, right, Francis? When will churches hear that, and who in the churches will hear those numbers?
Benefits memo that is sent out.
Francis, go back to the beginning. We didn't pick up your first conversation there.
All right. Can you hear me now?
A little better, a little closer helps.
Okay.
Good.
We do have a one-page benefit memo that's sent out, that we send out to churches in December, probably say by the 15th of the month that goes out. So BWC has been seeing this for quite some time now. That one pager does have the pastor's salary, what was reported at church conference. It has their total comp. It will have their election that was made at annual election, open enrollment for HealthFlex. It will also have at this time, it will have their Compass portion that they have elected will show up on that. So it will tell you pastor's payroll, what should come out of the pastor's check. So that will be that section for it. And then the next section will have what is owed by the church for the pastor, the church's portion, which you will see on the invoice that will come out in, as Dave told you. It will have the Health Flex, the medical, the fixed dollar amount that the church is required to pay for a pastor. It will have the Compass amount. And we will send it to the churches and ask them to review it. This is something that we ask to review and let us know if it's not correct. So before the billing goes out in January. So
who in the church will receive those, Francis?
It will be sent to the treasurer. it will be sent to the pastor. I know of those two and probably the finance chair. At
Very
least
good.
those
Thank you.
three will get it.
Same type of statement that the BWC churches have received in the December timeframe, and this will be brand new then for the Pendel churches. And you
Correct.
said mid-December is when to expect.
Mid-December, yes.
Thank you. Bill?
Okay, let's get through some of these. Beginning July 2026, the required participant contributions, will they be deducted on the 20th of the month?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's get
Bill, there was a follow-on question there. So the question went this way. Dave and Francis, what happens if the statement doesn't go out on the 10th of the month? What will be your
what if it's not received by the 10th? Yes.
what will be your contingency plan on when the pull of ACH funds will be done?
If there's something that delays it, and that's an extremely rare situation, we would just shift the ACH draft payment by however, if it's delayed by 2 days, we'll delay the drafting of the ACH process by that same amount of time. So the window will still be the same for any questions or anything that needs to be resolved or answered.
And we'll communicate the change in that 20th date when the statement comes out. So we'll be able to work around that to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
And Paul, I may add that changes, for the billing, normally it's like January and July if it's off. But for the other months, it will definitely be sent by the 10th, before the 10th.
Yep, the delays on January and July are the appointment changes and the new pay starting the new year.
Okay, and somebody is saying it sounds like people are, that churches should know about mid-December, the exact amount.
Yes, those church letters are intended to make sure that everything that was approved in your budgets for 26 are in sync with what HR has on record.
Okay.
With Westpath. These are truly Westpath records that we're showing to the churches to make sure everybody's on the same page.
All righty, let's go back to some of these. So a couple of people have asked questions because they use a payroll system or a payroll company. How will that work? I mean, if they're using a payroll system to pay the pastor, how will that work for the participant? Or if they submit monies to this payroll company.
Let me talk generically through that. So,
Okay.
If a pastor has a withholding on a payroll system, the church is actually retaining that pastor's contribution and not being billed by the payroll company for that amount. So I picture that the dollars that are actually being given to the pastor have stayed at home in the church treasury, and that you're then pulling from your church treasury to pay the conference for the participants' rates. So that's how I see it happening. There might be nuances to that based on what other payroll companies might offer, but I think that's probably most often the case.
Would that be similar, Paul, if somebody has an FSA or HSA that they're contributing to, the church isn't sending that to the payroll company, they're holding on to that to make those payments as well?
Quite the same, yes, Bill.
Okay, thank you. How does somebody find the online portal? They currently aren't using it, so where would they find it?
For Baltimore-Washington folks, it is financials.bwcumc.org, and then it's /portal, PORTAL.
And Dave, that would be great if you could drop that into the chat for everyone.
That's what we do.
That's what we
We'll
do.
do that for
Okay.
Pendel as well. But
Thank
Pendel's
you.
not available yet, Bill or Dave, right?
Correct.
So
Yep,
we'll
early
show
next
the
year.
BWC.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. So if the church is currently making their payments through the portal, they need to sign up for the ACH program?
They don't have to do it immediately, Bill, because that's when it's optional. but they will need to submit the paperwork for that July 1st ACH pull that we'll be doing. So we'll need to have the church identify what their bank account is. And just know some churches might choose to have these ACH draws by the conference going directly to an account that's different than what their standard operating account is. That we see that sometimes with payroll companies, and we could possibly be seeing this with some of these benefit payments.
All right, Dave, thank you for dropping that link, Dave, but you just sent it to the host and panelists, so please select everyone.
All right.
So if someone had another question, thank you, Dave. Another question about contributions. So if the pastor is participating in the 4% match, is the church paying all three of those different payment contributions that you had listed, Paul? So for a total of 7% plus the 150?
Yes, for a full-time pastor, 7% plus the 150 is the right way to think of that.
Okay. And part of that 7% is coming from the pastor's salary.
No, that's on top of the pastor's salary is on top of what the church contribution is.
Okay, thank you. And are there charges for the ACH? And if so, who incurs those charges?
So typically, ACH is the cheapest of all the electronic payment options. Credit cards are the most expensive. Credit cards, you'll see 2 to 3% of the total amount. ACH, depending on the bank, should be less than $1 for the transaction. I think our bank is 50 or 60 cents, which nowadays is about the same as the cost of postage. And when you factor in the postage and the check and everything else, it's typically it's a little cheaper to send an ACH payment nowadays than a regular old paper payment.
Thank you, Dave. Now, if a church is already paying via the portal and they use ACH payments, will their church information and bank account be carried over, or will they have to re-enter information?
There will be a separate authorization for the ACH.
Yeah, and one of the reasons for that is we know that some churches may choose, especially as Compass is rolled out, to have, I think Paul may have mentioned it, have the ACH withdrawn from a separate account. So we want to make sure we don't want to assume anything and make sure the authorization is specifically to the account that's desired by the church.
Now, what type of notice will a church get if a participant makes changes to their contribution? What kind of lead time will they have so they can make changes to payroll?
That is probably a good Francis question.
Could you please repeat that, Bill?
I can.
So Francis, when a pastor changes their contribution to Compass, and they want to go from 4% to 5%, what is the first notice that a church treasurer will receive about that change?
So the pastor has a choice to go into Westpath to make those changes. Okay, so if they do go into Westpath, Westpath will notify the conference, and they also will notify the treasurer. So
the treasurer of the church.
We're still working on some details as to how that's going to work. So more information will be shared, but before a change is made, I would say, or once a change is made, we in the benefits office will definitely notify the treasurer.
Francis, I think we also know that a pastor can make a change up to what date in the month for it to transact the next month.
So that's one of the things that Westpath is working on.
Okay.
So for example, if a pastor make a change, like by the 20th, they will have a cutoff. If the cutoff date is the 15th, which is not final yet, if they make the change for the 20th and the cutoff date is the 15th for the following month, that change will not be until the 2 months.
Right. So the key is we believe that Westpath will be sending a note directly to the treasurer when as the conference is also being notified. And that the first time you see that on the statement will not be the first time that you know that there's a change.
That is correct. But again, we want to do our due diligence in the benefits office by notifying the treasurer as well.
Very good. Okay, so conference will supplement that with an additional communication to the church.
All right,
Hey,
Paul,
Francis,
I'm about
while we
to.
have you, I spotted a question on there. Bill may have seen it as well, but on a related point, what if a pastor does not send in a contribution election form to Compass? What happens?
So if the pastor is currently enrolled in UMPIP, that contribution will roll into Compass. So if the contribution is less than 4%, it will automatically, turn into the default amount, which is 4%. Okay. So, but in addition, we've also sent out an enrollment form encouraging pastors to make their intent, to actually look at that form and see whether they want to increase or they want to, increase. We're not telling them to decrease, their contribution. So if they send in that payment, we will go with it. One other thing I want them to be aware of, if they're doing a dollar amount, that amount will be turned into a percentage as an equivalent. So that's what we'll bill them for.
And it gets rounded, does it not, Francis?
Yes, correct.
So we talk in whole percents on this match by participants. And I don't know, have we properly introduced that each year there's an automatic increase in the match for participants unless they choose to not have an increase occur?
Yes. And that information went out about 2 or 3 weeks ago to pastors, understanding what it is. It's an automatic escalation. So we have authorized WESPA to do a 1% increase to a maximum of 10%. So and
1% increase per year.
per year, and that will start April 2027, that automatic escalation. But more information to come.
And should a pastor have seen the election contribution form by now?
Yes, a pastor should have.
And if they have not, should they reach out to you?
Please do. Yes.
Thank you.
Reach out to Terry, Francis.
Or Terry.
Yes.
Thank you.
In both conferences, we've sent in information.
Now, I'm about to ask a question that I have no idea what they're asking, but who will give the 1099-R?
For the return, so a 1099-R is the income tax associated with an investment for the retiree. So Westpath does this typically.
Okay.
And that would continue to be the group that does that.
And I see one more question. The summary form you mentioned, Francis, what's going to go on that summary form that a church receives?
It will be the pastor's cash salary, housing allowance, or parsonage value. That's the one portion. On the second piece, the pastor's payroll deduction will have their medical premium, their dental premium, their vision, any HSA or flexible spending account. For PDC, in addition to that, it will be their life insurance, Dave, on that piece for the pastors. Okay. And for the church's portion, what will go, it will be the 3 portion of the pension plus CPP or UMPIP, whichever the pastor is eligible for.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, those are all of the open questions that we have.
Well, Dave, is there an opportunity for you to play on the portal on any loans that the church has?
Yeah, somebody had just posted that question. we did this year. Well, the question was, is there an option for paying the conference if the church has a loan that was issued by the conference? That is not in the payment portal, but we actually have we launched it recently. It's an online payment form that allows the loan payments to be transmitted electronically. So if you're interested in that option, just give the finance office a call. We can give you some more information on that.
Thank you. So, Bill,
Thank
that's
you.
all the questions that we have on Compass somewhat, right?
Correct. Correct.
Well, I think we do have some time, so let's use it judiciously. We will not exceed 8:30, but how about if you let us empty out the refrigerator with a couple of ideas that we have? And John, you'll be the first one to go.
Yes, until you answer, and after you answer this question that just popped in, is there a process for the pastor to opt out of the automatic pension percentage deduction escalation?
Francis, how does a pastor do that?
And that is correct. That's one reason we sent out the election form. But they can opt out, even if they don't do it now, they choose to do it any time of the year, they can opt out. As we said, the automatic escalation starts in 2027, April. And what we will do, we will send out a reminder. We will definitely send out some form of communication prior to that starting. So in case anybody wants to opt out for both conferences.
Yeah, it's not meant to be a burden. It's meant to, a lot of pastors' input as Westpath was putting this together were, boy, I just always forget to escalate it as I get pay raises and things like that. And so they took the escalation as an automatic, but there are ways to opt out of it.
Thank you, Paul. Now we're clear. John, you're on.
Excellent. Again, thank you friends for being here this evening. Just wanted to take a brief dive into our local church statistical trends, which paint actually a pretty hopeful story for us. So let's take a quick look at June of 2020. At that point in time, we're in the middle of the pandemic. We surveyed congregations regarding their financial health and received responses from about 93% of our churches. Nearly 60% reported declines in giving. Even amid those pressures, churches strove to maintain ministry and care for staff. Federal relief became a crucial stabilizer, with 58% of churches applying for PPP funds and nearly 9 in 10 of those successfully receiving them. The top chart shows giving without PPP, and the bottom shows that with PPP. The contrast underscores how essential those funds were during the most difficult months of the pandemic. And we wanted to recall this, not to dwell on the hardship specifically, but to kind of honor the resilience of the churches and that they demonstrated during these unprecedented times. Moving across the conference here, though, the connection more broadly, two trends stand out. First, worship attendance remains significantly below pre-pandemic levels, with declines of 24% to 32% across our two conferences. Yet second, and kind of amazingly counterintuitive, average church income has recovered and even grown, increasing between 3% and 14% since 2019. This raises kind of an important question about what is driving this growth. Some of the factors may include more intentional giving, growth in online and recurring giving, less frequent attendance, but consistent financial participation, and a smaller, deeper core of donors. These are speculative, but they're possible reasons for that actually happening. We can see a slightly more interesting deep dive into these on the next charts here. Average giving on this slide, the top chart shows the Baltimore-Washington conference, and the bottom the Peninsula Delaware conference. And we wanted to show this how strikingly similar the two groups are. In each case, the average giving per worship attender has increased roughly by 50% or more since 2019. For the BWC, that number rises to around $50 per week to $77 per week. For Pendel, $38 per week to $57 per week. This rise in per attender giving helps to explain how churches can experience lower attendance yet maintain or even grow their overall income. A smaller core of committed givers is sustaining ministry at higher levels than ever before. And this pattern seems to be extending well beyond our conference. For instance, this is the same kind of analysis for the Eastern Peninsula Conference, where we see the same consistent trend with the average worshiper is up average giving per worshiper is up about 50%, similar to the BWC and Pendel. We've also, in researching this, we discovered the same trend is taking hold in other denominations as well. So this reinforces a key point that while the number of people in the pews may be smaller, and those optics are really striking, the level of commitment among those attending has grown in really meaningful ways. Now I want to take a look at how churches say they're doing today and how they're navigating the long-term trends in the very real financial pressures of 2025. This July, we sent a survey out to our churches to gauge their current financial situation. For this, 73% of our churches responded, providing a broad and reliable picture. Most churches report being financially strained, but stable or growing. But 16% of the churches identified significant financial challenges this year. This is important, and it represents congregations contending with rising costs, shifting giving patterns, and the stresses of households across our region are feeling. But even this is a return to a normal pattern we saw prior to COVID-19. Despite it seeming bad, this is almost the same pattern we saw before. We wanted to acknowledge that those pressures are likely intensified by our current economic context, obviously, with the recent the government shutdown and the broader turbulences and government employment changes affecting our churches more directly than most conferences. But understanding these combined realities helps us interpret the trends with some more nuance and compassion. And in the midst of the uncertainty, both within our churches and the wider economy, there is genuine reason for hope in this. We're seeing sustained or growing income levels, strong increases of per attender generosity, continued growth in online and recurring giving, and adaptive and resilience in congregations as they rise to meet these new challenges. So these trends don't eliminate the pressures on some of that some of the churches are feeling, but they show that our congregations are capable, faithful, and committed. And as a conference, we are in a strong position to support them. And this is all through clear communication, realistic planning, and ongoing collaboration. So we really appreciate your participation in that, and we look forward to the future with that.
Very good. Thank you, John. If the remaining crowd would allow me, I'll go through just quickly then some of these last slides, John, that are updates within the two conference budgets. First slide that I have is a BWC. I wanted to show where we are with the collection rate for 2025. We're forecasting that to be 86.2% at the end of this year. And that's up from 84.5% in 2024 and up from 85% in 2023. So this is all very good news to be able to see that uptick for a conference that's typically in the 90%. So 86.2 is still showing some recovery. Next slide. Wanted to also remind the BWC churches of the efforts that we've been doing to overall annual conference has been voting on budgets that have been reducing this from roughly 14 million prior to COVID to a $12 million budget. We just met that criteria for the 2026 budget, going to 11.9 million. The reason why we've been reducing this budget is shown on the next slide. In that we've been trying to, it's a complicated slide, but it's a very good concept to show that at the bottom, this bottom graph shows the percent of income that the apportionment ask is. And we've been trying to get this down to a 10% ask for a conference budget. And in 2024, these are real numbers gathered in 2024, where if you go up You're on the right-hand side of these graphs, and if you go up the 2024 column, you'll see that our income has been somewhat stable. 2020, there's an aggregate total income of a conference, $120 million roughly is what we're estimating there in 2024. That's actual number, actually. 118.8 is the number. And then we know that the budget that year was a 12.0 ask for the budget in 2024. And when you put those two together, you find that the ask was 10.1% of the total income, aggregate income of the local churches. And so that 10% is a major goal met by in 2024. And as we continued to lower that budget a little bit, and we possibly might see increases in the income, we should be able to fall down below 10%. If I go over to the Pendel slides next, the update that I have here, I don't want to go through all these numbers. This is a slide that we use with the CFA. The fourth bullet is the primary point of reference here is that the collection rate is 84% in Pendel through September. This is $45,000 higher on the actual collection in 2025 than it was in 2024, which is very, very good. Those who have been part of our conversation in Pendel understand that we are in a transitional period here with the number of churches that left in Pendel. This is a tricky budget for us to navigate, and we know that actually increasing the collection rate this year has been good. 84% is not exactly what we want. We'd like to be up closer to 87 to 88%, but we do know that there's some reserves that are left through the disaffiliation process. This is shown in the blue block down at the bottom, is that of the prepayment of mission shares by those churches who disaffiliated, the CFA still retains $568,000 of those funds, which can be used for covering a shortfall if it is needed. And the shortfall up in the graph on the chart is $184,000 year to date. CFA might be able to navigate this simply by having less expense than the budget and may not need to draw on that $568,000 reserve. And the last slide, I think, is right before us here. And this is just a general slide that we used at annual conference in Peninsula, Delaware, to show the dynamics that we're trying to put in play at local church levels. And the mission share collection is one of the lines that we have here. We believe we're trying to get that up to 90%. That's the increased number. 84% is what we've got year to date. We're trying to get to 90% in the course of 2026. We're going to try to navigate this without using prepaid mission shares. That's the next line below that. And then we're going to try to do full appropriation to all of our agencies in 2026. We believe we're on course to do that in 2025. And if you might remember, in 2024, when we reviewed this with the annual conference, we did not do a full allocation of the budget to the agencies in order to do some expense control in that transitional year of 2024. So the stress that we're having with local churches in Peninsula, Delaware, is to try to improve our overall collection rate. At the same time, we're offering relief to local churches in Pendel by, first of all, this Compass program. The pension plan does require less church-based contributions. And we also saw significant numbers. I didn't bring those with us to show the benefits of the Health Flex, but the billing to local churches as Pendel moves into Health Flex in 2026 is significant. And we believe that that is going to help on churches being able to be fully connected through the mission share. And Bill, that's our last slide, last formal slide. Takes us to any further Q&A. Do we have any for cleanup tonight?
No other Q&A has come in. Paul, are you sure the fridge is completely cleaned out?
The what?
Are you sure the refrigerator has been completely cleaned out?
Yeah, those are a little bit. Yeah.
Now, see, growing up in my house,
going on a trip and we're cleaning out the refrigerator. You never know what kind of meal you're going to get.
My mom made Musco casserole. And so she'd go into the fridge and decide what must go and turn it into a casserole. So you kind of get, yes, it's as exciting as it sounds, Dave.
I
So you
love it.
gave me a little bit of that relived childhood memory. Thank you, Paul.
That's
Bill,
better
we
than how
really
I first heard it. I
celebrate.
thought you said muskrat.
No, no, that's, I'll get into that another time, but thank you. No, must go, must go. There
Bill,
are
we really
questions that,
celebrate tonight just the
man,
questions that were
yeah.
asked. It's very important for our finance team and our benefits team to really hear what questions churches have as we go into Compass. That's the biggest value that we take from tonight. We get there only by having as many participants as we had on tonight. So we're very thankful for everyone making time during a holiday week to do this.
Yes.
It sets us up for good success as we get into December and January with this transition with Compass. And it allows us to structure some of our communications with local churches to be precisely to answer some of these questions for them.
And I appreciate it, Paul. I will tell you, Paul pointed out to me this evening, this is Paul's and mine third webinar in 8 days. And all three have been very technical and very numbers oriented. So I appreciate you, Paul. I appreciate your team that you have been working with over these last 3 webinars. For those who are watching, we have recorded, and so tonight's slides and video will be processed. It will hopefully be posted next week because we are entering into a holiday break for the staff at the Mission Center. So we'll hopefully get that posted on all of the websites. We posted on the Baltimore-Washington Conference website. We posted on the Peninsula Delaware Conference website. We posted on the Joint Episcopal Area website. And with that video posting, we will also put a copy of the PowerPoint slides. So as soon as we have those available, we post them right away. But if you do have particular questions that are unique to your church, please reach out to Paul, to Francis, to Karen, to Terry, and they will be able to answer your questions or at least point you in the right direction. I'm going to give Paul the last word, but while we are waiting for that, I've opened up the chat. If you all who are with us, you can now just drop a word of thanks to our presenters tonight, making some complicated issues a lot clearer. And as I've always said to Paul, if I can begin to understand it, then anyone can begin to understand it. So Paul, what would you like to leave us with tonight?
Bill, first of all, we're very thankful for you moderating and facilitating so well for us. You make any team that comes in your midst look good on a presentation like this. I really thank our technical team, Dave and John, for the work that they're doing. And Francis, you do such good leadership with our HR efforts in both conferences. We really appreciate the changes you've implemented over the last couple years. So we have the right team. I appreciate everything that they do for us. I appreciate local churches reaching out to us as they need to as we take these next steps. Thank you, Bill. I wish
you,
everybody
Paul.
a happy Thanksgiving. Is that fair?
That is more than fair. I was going to say, as you gather around your tables with family and friends, I know it has been a challenging season, but we are grateful for you, and we offer our thanksgiving to God for all of you who have joined us tonight. And I am particularly thankful for you, Paul and Francis and John and Dave. Have a blessed evening, everyone, and good night, and happy Thanksgiving.